That's interesting because most people's financial freedom, which is different to financial abundance figure, is about it's somewhere between 2 and 3,000 a month.
Mm,
And when you think about
yeah,
that, and I know you're getting into property, depending on your strategy, that you don't have to have many properties to achieve that.
yeah, yeah,
And of course, they don't have to be, you don't have to own them to realize that cash flow, not equity growth, but cash flow.
yeah.
So it's
I
not
think
it's
cash flow is
it's
key.
not it's not unachievable. But getting
Yeah,
getting into property, cash flow, equity growth, two different things. And that's what's given me my freedom.
really.
Yeah.
Well, perfect segue. um, so, so yeah, I mean, that is my first question would be, so you are involved with property. I
Yes.
know that, like, I've been looking through your Instagram a little bit. I know you've got, you're spinning plates, you've got a few things on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm interested in the property side. So, I mean, first of all, what was your first property deal? Was it a long time ago? Was it fairly recently, or what was it?
Well, relatively recently, don't know, lifestyles and, ages and things. Up until I was
Hmm.
50, I didn't actually know I could own two properties. So that's how
Right,
late
okay.
I started, right? Because nobody around me had had any dealings with property as a business, hadn't owned two properties. They all owned their own property, like my parents, my
Yeah,
nan, my grands, which was a very fortunate position to be in. So, I acknowledge that. But they'd all had a job. They'd worked, like 9 to 5 or however many hours, 60, 70 hours a week, whatever. They all
yeah.
worked. So that's sort of how I was imprinted and programmed. And until I was 50 and may have had a bit of a midlife crisis, who knows, and just went, jacked everything up in the
Yeah.
air. I didn't even know property was an option. So um, my first deal, I have to laugh at this, was a lease option.
Oh, wow. Well done.
Yeah, exactly. And
Good
and
going.
why was that my first deal? Was because I bought a below market value lead and paid for it. And at the time it was £100 plus VAT, so 120 quid.
God.
And it wasn't a below market value lead. It wasn't. All they were trying to do was sell their house quick. There was no way
Right.
in when I got into the nitty gritty of it, there was no way in a million years they could have accepted below market value because the debt on the property was enormous. So me being me, when I went to see them, and I was actually dealing with the wife, and this is a real key for people that will listen to this episode later. I was dealing with the wife. The husband was at work. She had two little kids and two dogs, and the house was a tip, an absolute tip. But her husband had a job opportunity in the States, and they had until the end of that month to accept it and go or lose the opportunity. So there was a real
Wow.
time factor, real time factor. So I pitched her a lease option, did the babysit your mortgage approach, and she
Hmm.
bit my arm off for it. And
Wow.
I had that property. I then HMO'd it. Got consent to let and everything. And I'm not sure I did it all quite right at the beginning. Have to say that. But I then HMO'd it because that was the only way the deal would work. And I probably had that property until I probably had that for about maybe 5 years. And what happened, again, I'm a very kind person, maybe somewhat naive sometimes. Um, the just in case it went wrong, and then I ended up talking to the husband as well. But just in case it went wrong, and they came back with two children and two dogs, the guy asked me for a break clause in the lease option, which I
All right.
agreed, to, but also agreed that if they broke the clause, I'd get a percentage of the profit of the increase in equity on the profit.
Yeah.
Um, and they broke the clause. They never came back, but they broke they took the clause break, and I came out of that with about 22,000 plus
Not
5
bad.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't complaining.
Yeah.
Um, So that was my very first deal. Very first
Amazing.
deal.
And if you don't mind us asking, was that after kind of getting introduced to Rob Moore and the like progressive team? Was it through their training at all, or was it
it
no
wasn't through
something else?
Progressive. No, it was through another training company who, at the time, I'm now thinking, okay, yeah, I'll say it. The company I got introduced to was the Wealth Dragons, which was John Lee and Vincent Wall, based up in Milton Keynes. I went to, so when I had my midlife, whatever it was, I went to the National Achievers Congress, which was a big conference back in the day. It was just the one you went to. And I bought a property investing program, a forex trading program, a internet marketing program, and the Tony Robbins Unlimited Power Walk on Fire program because I could. And
Okay.
I paid for it all on my credit card. And then just basically because I thought I've just launched myself into this new world. So I was a business consultant before. So I worked for
Right.
myself and I was in my own business with business partners, but I had never been introduced to this like entrepreneurial world. Even though I was in business for myself, it was very different. And I just went through the whole load of those things. I forex traded for 6 months. That is not my thing. Watching green and red blips go up and down the screen. But I traded for
No.
6 months, broke even. So I did really well. I got very angry at that industry at the time because it was a bit charlatan.
Mm.
There was lots of mis-selling going on, I believe, for people. I did the internet marketing, which was good because I then learned I could build my own website. I got to know the back end of that. But again, not for me, not people. There's no people involved in it. I did the firewalk, went to Rimini to do that, loved it. Got really hyped up on, with Tony Robbins and floating around the sky in space bubbles and things, which I learned at that point that a lot of the NLP techniques I was already using, but I just didn't know what they were. So that took me down
Yeah.
another route as well. But then the property, because it's people, property is a people business. It is.
Yeah.
Because it's people, because it's bricks and mortar, because it's a physical thing that we all have to have a roof over our head of some description. I just sort of, and I realised that I'd always done it. Every house I had ever bought for myself, I bought an absolute wreck and I
Mm.
bought below market value. But that was sheer gut instinct to say you've got to get a bargain and you've got to add value. But I didn't know why I was doing it. So I got into it. I really enjoyed it. I'm a lifestyle, not an empire builder. So I've not
Okay.
got a massive portfolio, but depending on how you want to live your life, you don't really need one. And as long as you've
Yeah.
got the cash flow and the equity growth, you could have cash flow and live a really good life and have no equity growth, which I know some people do, depending on the strategy they're using. So I've just I've stayed in it. I've stayed around it. Some been active and not active. I'm not particularly active at the moment, although I'm beginning to think maybe I should be. But what strategy do I then want to deploy? And I'm not sure about that at the moment because of where we are within the market.
Yeah.
So I've done a few. I've done refurbs, I've done flips. My strategy is HMO. I love it,
Right.
and I self-manage. So I deal with all the
Oh
tenant.
wow.
I deal with all the tenant issues. Suicide, well, not suicides, deaths,
God.
police, knife attacks, arguments, mental health issues, alcoholics. You just deal with it. But then,
Yeah.
people person, I've got that skill set.
Yes.
So and I'm not shy in coming forward, so I don't take any crap. It's you
Good
can't.
landlord then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other thing as well, linked to that, I am a good landlord and I'm a professional landlord and what I do is right. I help as well. I help wherever I
Okay.
can. And you can't help everybody, but you can help a lot. And I've never been shy. If there's an issue in a house, I deal with it. There's no point in brushing it under the carpet because it doesn't go under the carpet. It just gets bigger. So I just deal with things, and some things take time because evicting tenants, which, you have to do on occasion. Sometimes they go and sometimes they don't. Never yet gone to court. Never yet gone to court. But yeah, I love it. I do love it.
Yeah. I mean, it's very similar as well. Like, I feel like I was always drawn to property for like
Yeah.
them exact same reasons, like the bricks and mortar, more needed roof over. Exactly what you were saying is exactly my own thoughts. Because say, I've been in business with my brother slightly. He owns a flat in Newcastle, and I've been running that as a serviced accommodation for about a year and a half now.
Okay.
We're gonna put it back to a single let just because just the costs of the flat are going up so much. It's kind of squeezing out, and when you're squeezing out the profit, basically through the winter months, you just kind of, it's almost like breaking even when you do really well in the summer, but then over the winter it kind of just balances out. So we haven't really even made much money. We've made some, and I've had training out of it, and like the ability to set up my company to start deal sourcing. That's kind of like where I was at the start of the year, was deal sourcing, thinking just to try and build up a pot of cash to then invest in my own property. And then I started deal sourcing, and the very first deal that I came across, I'm like, right, I want this. So now like all my energy is going into that, because it's just such a good deal. Like I'm really, really reluctant to sell it. I feel like I could do it. I feel like I could just find the money for it somehow. Like I needed to do deal sourcing to build up a pot of cash, and I find a really good deal, and I'm like, now I just need to find the money. It doesn't matter about anything else. I just need to find the money. And it's weird. I had a conversation with my brother last night as well, and he said that there's the potential there that he's like due to refinance his flat in Newcastle, and when he refinances, he's going to be able to pull out about exactly how much I need for this deal. So I'm like, I know, it's crazy. It's crazy how things are working out, kind of thing.
Well, that's the
Yeah,
universe.
it is, isn't it? Like as
Wow.
you start working towards something.
I tell you,
Yeah,
the universe answers. So if
yeah,
you have that spiritual bent and you really believe in something bigger, whatever that is, but
yeah,
something bigger, the universe will answer the question, will answer the request.
yeah.
Does.
I mean, it's weird because like I never used to believe. Like my girlfriend has told me for years about The Secret and things like that, and I kind
Yeah.
of brushed it off, didn't really think
Uh,
about it much.
uh,
But then the more that I get like going, and like I don't think it is a difference between kind of maybe sitting in a room going money, 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 like thinking I want money, and then it just comes to you. It doesn't really work like that. But if you're driving towards a single goal, or you've got a purpose kind of in mind, and then you're chipping away at it, you're taking steps every day towards that goal, then you'd be
yeah,
surprised at how many things just start clicking into place. And it's like,
absolutely.
I'm like, maybe it is real, maybe it does answer, like the universe does answer you, which is
It
just,
does.
it's crazy little shift in mindset.
Yeah, it does answer, and it all depends what energy vibration we put out into the world. Because if you're really
Yeah,
down and really low, you're going to get that back. But if you're up and you're good and you're putting out good stuff, of course it's going to repay you. I mean,
yeah.
karma is a thing. Karma is a
Oh,
thing.
100%, 100%. It's crazy. Like karma is the one thing I always believed in. Like
Yeah,
I thought that was like the one thing I had no question about. I always just knew that karma was real, so I always try to be good. But like as things are moving on, it's like everything is actually interconnected. Like karma, along with manifestation, or being in the right mindset, all of these things linked
yeah,
together, as one kind of big umbrella over your
yeah,
life. And
yeah.
it is really, really surreal when things start clicking into place, and
No,
you
but
kind
it's
of
not
start
surreal
going,
because
actually, oh
if
yeah.
if you if you believe it, it's not surreal. Because if you
Yeah.
truly believe it, then it's an expectation anyway, and you're doing what's required to make
Mm,
that come back at you. One of my
yeah.
phrases is everything is connected. Nothing sits in isolation. Nothing
Mm,
sits in isolation. So when you think about what happens in your life, and we don't always know why it happens in the moment, because you're going, what? But everything is connected. So everything that happens to us relates to something we've either done or we are going to do. Everything is connected to something that will happen, but we don't always know what it is. I'll tell you a story on this. So I came back from a holiday. Now, I lived in a road. When I went to visit my mum and dad, I would drive to the top of my road and I would turn right to get to mum and dad's. And I had I'd said it for years, that if ever I moved from where I was currently living, I wanted to live in that road, on that side of the street, at that end of that particular road.
Right.
But I had no intention of moving. So I came back from this holiday, and remember, I'd go to the end of the road and I'd turn right. I turned left. Don't ask me why I turned left, but I did. And I went, oh, okay. So to get to mum and dad's from turning left, I've got to go down that road. So I drive down that road, and at that end of the street, on that side of the road that I would never normally drive down, there's a house that's got a for sale sign, but the for sale sign has collapsed. The garden's all overgrown. And all I saw in the window was an A4 handwritten sheet of paper that said, it had a number on it. So I looked at that, I saw the for sale board down, recognised the estate agent's sign, rang him up, because these houses don't come up very often, rang him up and said, is that house for sale? Yes. Is it? Can I view it? Yes. When? Now. Just come back from holiday. So went in, viewed the house, got the estate agent, I met him there in the afternoon, viewed the house. As we walked into the house, the cockroaches scuttled and the smell of mice just went up your nostril and into your brain. And the house was in really poor condition. There was trees growing through a conservatory. You couldn't see down the garden, but the fundamental of the house was really good. It's the house you really want to buy, that one.
Yeah.
So I said to the estate agent, remember, I've just come back from holiday, I'm not about to move. And I said to the estate agent, I want the house. I didn't even know what it was up for at that point. Asked him what the price was, because I hadn't. Asked him what the price was, he told me. So, of course, I always want a deal. So I said to the estate agent, phone the owner up. I gave him a sentence to use, which was about, and please tell him that I've seen the cockroaches scuttle, I've smelt the mice, and I'm still smiling. And this is my offer. So the estate agent said to me, he won't accept that. He's already refused a higher offer. So I said, just tell him what I've just said. So certain. Don't ask me where, but I was so certain. So the estate agent rang him up while we're standing in the house, and the guy accepted the offer.
Wow.
And then I went,
crazy.
Now, and this was before I knew I could own two houses. So this was right on that cusp. So I sold my house, which I now, of course, wish I'd kept, but I don't live in regret. But I didn't know any better. And I wasn't even going to move. This all happened on the day I come back from holiday because I turned left out on the road rather than right. So it happens. But for years I had said, if ever I move, I'm going to live. That's where I want to live. Where did I end up living?
Yeah. Maybe did you pick your own fate, or was it always there? I don't know. It's hard to tell, really, isn't it?
Don't know. Still own that house. It's now an HMO.
Oh, excellent. Cash flowing, excellent.
Yeah, cash flowing, HMO, going up in equity.
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one of the things that I want to find out from people is like challenges that people have faced, just because I feel like everybody's got some little nugget of information that is just like needs to be shared, especially for people at the very start of their journeys who are maybe don't know what to do. Maybe like me, I know I want to do property. And I'm thinking HMOs is the way to go as well for me. Like after doing the service accommodation, with how all over the place it is with your void periods and things like that, I'm thinking HMOs, and then you're a bit more secure, like month to month, even year to year. So yeah, so that's what I want to find out. I want to find out if is there anything that maybe you maybe might have made a mistake on along the way, and kind of would do it differently if you were to do it again. Putting you on the spot.
No, property wise, I'd have been more active, I think, if I went
Mm,
back, and although saying that, I was active. And then life happens and I became non-active. But property
mm,
wise, no, probably not. I mean, HMOs is my thing. I think with HMOs, you've especially now with all the changes, with the utilities and all of that, and the way the properties have gone up in value, the way the utilities have gone up in value, and rents have gone up, but wages haven't. So
yeah.
there is a real balancing act. And I've just done a mini refurb on a property now, so I'm looking for tenants, and the they're not coming through as fast as they were last time I had vacancies. I very rarely get vacancies. I get a tenant and they sort of stay.
Mm,
So there's a real balancing act between how much you can pay for it to make it work versus how many rooms you're going to rent, linked to whether it's licensed or unlicensed, and then Article 4 and all of the legal aspects of running HMOs. So I don't think that's been my real learning point, because that was what I was going to do anyway. So I knew how to do that before I got into it, and I deal with people. I'm not shy in coming forward. So I do think maybe for many people, okay, here's a learning point, but it wasn't one for me particularly. But I see a lot of people have to learn it, is dealing with conflict, walking
right.
towards conflict, having that conversation before it escalates, going in with all your senses tingling, knowing that something's not right and dealing with it. Because you could have one person in an HMO, multi-lets, however big they are, whether they're small ones of 3 or 4 or big ones of, 8 or 9. And I've run both. You've got one person that could be a problem that destroys all the rest. And
Yeah.
what you really don't want is the one person ruling the roost, which then makes all the others unhappy. And they're the good ones. But because this one person is the bully or the alcoholic or the drug taker or the just nasty individual, just a bit of a prat, that one person can upset all the rest. So you've got
Yeah.
to deal with this one person. So you have to be prepared to walk towards conflict. You have to learn those skills. And again, if people haven't got them, I happily train people how to do that. It's part of what I do. But I like on another side. But you have to be able to do that. And the other, I'll tell you one mistake I made, and it wasn't with HMOs. Well, it wasn't even a mistake really, but it's a learning point. When you get into a joint venture partnership with somebody, regardless of the strategy, really get your details down about how that JV partnership is going to work. And if you can't have those conversations up front, do not get into the joint venture partner with that person. So talk about finances, talk about tax, get it all legally agreed. Talk about if you've got a disagreement, who does what. Talk about if you're not happy with each other, how does it work. Talk about, what happens, what's your strategy A, B, C and D at the end. Because you can be in a joint venture partner with somebody for, say, if you're just doing a simple flip, it could take a year.
Yeah.
But in a year, the market changes. So, go into these, whatever the joint venture is, go into these joint ventures knowing how you're going to exit
Right.
and knowing how you're going to deal with stuff if stuff goes wrong. Because
Yeah.
the amount of joint venture partnerships that have gone wrong that I've helped people sort of navigate, it's huge. It's huge.
Really.
Yeah. And one, it took 3 years to come out the other end. I mean,
Yeah.
and that is a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money. Just, have those conversations. I mean, just you were saying you're going to get married in X. So you've planned that marriage, you've planned the relationship and everything. People get into joint ventures with people, they meet for one night,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden they're in business. And I'm like, you wouldn't get into bed with someone. Well, you might get into bed with
Yeah.
someone, but you would get married to them on the first night. It's just
Yeah.
like, think about what you're doing. Oh, well, he seemed all right. What? Do some
Yeah.
due diligence.
Yeah. As
And,
much due diligence as what you
oh,
do on the property, do it on the
yeah,
person. Yeah.
absolutely. But I tell you the other thing, and this was a big learning for me. And again, because of I'm of a certain age within life, I've done a lot of stuff. One of the biggest things for me that changed when I changed my life, and I did change my life hugely. One of the biggest things that changed, and I was prepared for it, and just went with it anyway. But most of the people around me didn't agree with what I was doing. Told me, and one of my family members told me that the lease option was illegal, and then put that out into the family, which then insulted my values because and it was, quite a close family member. I thought, so they actually think that what I'm doing is illegal. They actually think that's who I am. So
Yeah. It's like
clearly
an
the
insult.
individual, who knows, but it put a rift in the family. That was one thing, and I'm going to say it wasn't a loss, but it put a rift in the family. But what it also did for my friendship group, like really close friendship group, completely divided us. So
Really.
one friend didn't, I mean, after about, I'm going to say maybe a year, maybe 2 years, just didn't see her anymore. Another friend, I did continue to see because she wasn't that judgmental. She sort of knew what I was doing, and as much as she didn't always agree with it, because that's not how she wanted to live her life, we could still be friends and go out and and have fun. But even that friendship ended in during the time when we weren't allowed to go out, because our values and our values and our belief systems were very different, and it did that. And that was over 20 plus years of friendship. So
Yeah.
I think when you change your life, depending on who's with you and who's not, seriously be prepared to let people go and be prepared to bring in new people.
Yeah.
Because we need to talk to people, we need to share the stuff, we need to feel like we're in a net, and that's why networking's so important. And that's why, I mean, Progressive, you mentioned Progressive earlier. I met Progressive at the Super Conference, and I think it was 2012, I think. That was my first introduction, but I'm still involved, and I've been and
Yeah.
gone and come back, but I'm still involved with Progressive, and there's a
Yeah.
network
I've
of
loved.
people.
Yeah, I've been to a few different events run by different companies and people, but Progressive definitely I'm 100% drawn to them, like the team of people, but also the people who go there to the
Yeah,
events. Like I find
yeah,
myself speaking to everybody. I think the
yeah.
first event that I went to, my biggest worry was talking to people. So I was like,
Oh no.
I was listening to how to win friends and influence people on the way down there and stuff, like thinking that would help. But really, it's just you've got to get talking to people. But now I don't even think about it. I just talk to
No.
everybody, and I
Yeah,
love it. I
yeah,
absolutely love that environment. I'm actually going back next week for the Money Makers Matrix
yeah,
Summit.
yeah.
I don't know. I've definitely seen you at different events. I don't know if we've had a conversation before, but I've definitely seen you about. So I know that you quite.
Yeah. I go to some. I don't go to all because I've been around a long time.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't go to as many as I used to go to, by any stretch of the imagination. But it's a good network, and I will say this: they've been around a long time. So
Yeah.
they're not they're not a fly by night company. They're not. You know, Rob and Mark are there. You still get to talk to them. You still get to meet them. Some of their trainers are, you know, really good people, and know their stuff. You know, and there's changes and there's swap overs and people come and go. But as a company, they've been around a long time, and other companies have been and gone. You know, and they're still there. So there's a real testament to, you know, good business and good reputation, because they're still about. And that doesn't happen if something goes wrong, you're not about. You know, you disappear, people disappear. So yeah, it's good. It's good. And of course, Peterborough becomes the centre of your universe.
It does. It's such a shame. It's 4 hours away for me in the car. It's crazy. It's thought every time. In fact, I do a lot of like reflecting, and like I do it. Well, last time I went down, it was for the pitch. So on the way down there, I was just like practicing my pitch over and over and over again. But on the way back, I'm always reflecting. Maybe make a few videos on the way back, just kind of like talking to myself, just kind of trying to get everything out off my chest, because my mind's just going a million miles an hour. You've got all these thoughts in your head, all these ideas, because obviously you get talks, and they give you, like, we'll have like a podcast and talk, and then there's like some sort of making money online and another way to talk, and I'm like shiny object syndrome, like, oh, I want to do that, I want to do that, I want to do that. But the podcasting one really, really stuck with us, because I thought, with my time constraints already, and like I thought of a really good name, like I like the name of my podcast. So I just thought, like, it all ties in perfectly. And because I'm at the start of my property journey, if I can interview people who've been there before, because I actually spoke to Rob Moore, I'd done a little mini interview with Rob Moore. I just asked him one question, and I just said, what would you do if you were at the start of your property journey? And he said, hang around with people who've already been there and done that. So that's exactly why I started the podcast, just to kind of see if there's, well, kind of squeeze the information out of as many people as I can. And it's like selfish in a way, like I want to learn it for myself. But if I can put it out there on the internet and help anybody else along the way, then that is like, that's like the ultimate goal, really, isn't it? Being able to provide value for others.
Yeah, do you know, it's interesting you saying that. So I run a podcast, and I have been interviewed on podcasts. And again, I've been a little bit quiet recently, but I'm coming back out, if you like.
Yeah.
And I did an interview, I'm going to say 4 or 5 years ago. And about 2 years after I recorded the interview, the son of a woman I knew from BNI, completely different industries, the son of the woman that I knew from BNI said, isn't one of your friends at BNI's name? I've heard you mention a girl called Julie. Is her surname Hogbin? The woman, Sue, said, yes. I got invited to dinner.
Wow.
Because the son had heard my interview on the podcast, realised that she knew me, said to his mum, get her to dinner so I could pick her brains.
Oh, amazing.
That's exactly what happened. So these podcast episodes, you know, you never know who's going to hear them. But that's the same for you as the host. You never know who's going to hear this. And the fact that, you know, we're now talking and you're saying, you know, the amount of money, blah, blah, blah. It's how you earn your reputation.
Yeah.
You know, there could be somebody that hears this, that lives in Newcastle, that knows of you through some other something, and goes, oh, I know him, he's all right. Oh, he's got into property. So this connection, nothing sits in isolation. It all comes together, and it does.
Yeah. Well, I think that's definitely part of the reason. Just putting myself out there, not thinking about what other people think, and not trying to do what everybody else is doing.
No.
Being that one person who's like, you know what it is, I'm just gonna do it. Just do it. And then even I started kind of documenting my journey on TikTok, of all places. But it was just because it was like a fresh slate. I didn't have any friends on there, so I thought, right, I'll go with TikTok. I made my first video in the morning. I went to work, and by the end of my shift, somebody at work had already found us. So I was
Really?
like, oh, yeah, literally on the
Okay.
same day. So I was like, but now I've got a few lads who follow us there on TikTok, and like if it's been a few days without us posting a video, they're like, Where's the video? Where's the video for today?" Like that. I was like, all right, okay, so people actually care, kind of thing. Like, you know what I mean? It's really, really weird. Like I feel like my life's just like changing like supersonic speed at the minute. Especially like I was so apprehensive, so anxious about posting in the Rob.team group, like asking for guests on the podcast, because I thought the biggest hurdle is trying to find people who want to come on, because nobody
No,
did.
no, it's
And I
not.
put it on, and within 10 minutes, I had
Yeah,
3 people contact us. Within about an hour, I had 5, and
yeah,
then I set up my calendar, sent it out, and I had 4 bookings within
yeah,
not even 24 hours. So I'm
yeah.
like, right now I've got too many guests. I
Yeah,
need to
but no,
spread it out.
but this is the good thing, isn't it? Because you want guests, guests want to speak. So
Yeah,
this any podcast is a platform. So anybody that puts out, I need a guest, if people are not saying me, as in me messaging you going, I'll be on it, then there's
yeah,
something not quite right. Because anybody that's in business, this is a platform to get your message out.
yeah.
You know, they'll hear you, they'll hear me, I'll say one thing, you'll say a few, whatever, and they'll go, what was that she said? And they'll, you know, look me up, look you up, because it just goes out into the, I'm going to say it just goes out into the ether. It's not quite that
Yeah,
simple, but you,
yeah,
you never know who's going to hear it. You
yeah.
never know who's going to hear it.
It's just amazing. It's quite like baffling kind of thing, because I just never would have thought it. In fact, I'll tell a lie, because I actually did. Like I always, my whole life, I've been making little videos of myself, like when I was a kid, like doing skating videos and like stunt videos and things like that. And then like I've always watched people online and kind of been drawn to it in a way. Like I want to do this, but never really thought that I could or that anybody would care. This is the biggest thing, really.
No, they do
Um,
though.
but
They
then,
do.
but then you realize more than that. I think it's more valuable just for myself, just to kind of put it out. Like I've got a few, like I've got a couple of months worth of records of what I've been doing for the past couple of months,
Yeah.
just like chipping away at this project, going to these different events, speaking to people. Now I've got like a little record there, and it's all online. So like even when my daughters, when they're older, they'll be able to look back and say,
Yeah.
"Oh, what was my dad up to on the
Yeah.
22nd of
Yeah.
July,
Exactly.
2024?" It's really crazy that that it's almost like a video diary kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, right, it's motivating me that I just need to keep going. Consistency is going to be the key, and even if nobody's watching it, I feel like if you put it out to 1,000 people and one person subscribes or one person follows, then you put it out to another 10,000 people and you get 10 people, and it's like but maybe in a year or two like that, I might have like a little follower who care about what I'm doing and kind of like pushing us to keep going, keep going, keep
I'll
going.
tell you a story actually, because it really does feed into this. When I first started doing what I'm doing, I was posting regularly on social media, and it was Facebook at the time. And I was out viewing properties, doing what you've got to do. And I had this property, and at the time, it was a while ago, but it was up for 250,000, and it needed a complete refurb. It was as original, and I viewed it, and it's in a brilliant position where local to where I live. And I knew that if I could buy it, it would be worth a lot more in a very short space of time because of, what could be done to it.
Yeah.
And I was detailing this on social media, and I got 4 offers of the 250,000 in
Wow.
private messaging, 2 from people outside of the UK but were British, and 2 from inside the UK. So it wasn't public, but it was all in the DM. So I basically got an offer of £1 million
Oh
to
my
buy this
God.
house, which was
Yeah.
250,000. Now, at the time, I got so scared, and I was doing it on my own. I got so scared, I ran away. I couldn't do it. I couldn't deal with it. That property now, and that would have been probably 2000, so maybe 10 years ago, just go 10 years, that
Mhm.
property now would sell And outside, it looks the same. That property now would probably sell for 1.25.
Yeah. But and you didn't do it. You didn't do the deal. You were
Got
too.
scared. Got scared and
Yeah.
ran away. Didn't talk to anyone. Didn't say anything to anyone. Just got
So that
scared.
thing that you were talking about, facing your problems head on, when you were
Yeah,
talking about it, it was honestly,
yeah,
it was like ringing bells in my head, because it's the same thing I'm realizing now, that these like I leave things, if I've got a deadline, I'll leave it till the minute before the deadline to do anything. If I've got a conversation that I need to have, I'll also run away from it. There's one that I need to have with my dad about doing some tiling in
have
my
the
house, and I'd just
conversation.
be putting it off because I'm like scared of what the outcome is, and it's like I'm worried about something that hasn't happened yet. I
Yeah,
don't know what the outcome is,
no,
and every time I seem to face these problems head on,
yeah, you
it is
do.
always for the better. Every
Yeah,
time I've had the difficult
yeah,
conversation, faced the problem head on, I've always end up
yeah,
coming out in a better place.
yeah,
So
you
it's
will.
like it's realizing that very, very recently, that I'm like, right, okay, this is, and it's starting to feel good now. Going for that harder thing or having that harder conversation is actually feeling good. Like I can't wait to do that thing now, even though I'm still get anxiety about it, still worried about it.
Thing
But
is,
doing it is always good.
yeah, but doing it will never, ever, ever be worse than the anxiety that builds through
Mm,
not doing it. Because once
yeah,
you've done it, whatever the result is, you then deal with that. But you're a step
yeah,
further.
yeah,
Yeah, without a doubt. So yeah, this whole thing, um, putting things out on social media, you're coming back to your TikToks, putting things out on social media, even if people don't comment, don't like, don't whatever, they're watching. They
yeah,
are
yeah.
absolutely watching. And this is a thing, and I've said this for decades to, different people and in business. What you put out there is your brand and your reputation. And once it's out there, you cannot take it back.
Mm,
So whatever you want
interesting.
your brand and your reputation to be, design it in advance and put it out there to make sure that that is what people see and hear. And it
Right.
doesn't, you can swear like a trooper, but if that's your brand, that's your brand. Or you can be, you could, I don't know, you could be doing anything. But when it's out there, it's your brand, and that's what people get to know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
Or don't want to know, dislike, and
Mm,
distrust. Because
yeah.
whatever we do, it's what people see. And we're never going to attract all of the people all of the time. We're not. No, but not everybody's going to like us all of the time. They're not. But they're also not going to dislike us all of the time. And not everybody's our, for want of a better phrase, market. They're not.
Yeah.
Like part of my family, I just don't see them anymore.
Yeah.
So it's not, and I don't have any regrets over any of that. But we can't, it's not about keeping everybody happy all of the time, because we can't. We just
Yeah.
can't do that. It doesn't work.
Yeah. Literally. That as well, like all of these things, they just kind of dawn on you, don't they? And like you kind of, I've always questioned things like that, and then you kind of learn it firsthand. You're like, oh, it doesn't matter what people think. I
No.
think it always comes down to, it doesn't matter what people think, as long as, I think the biggest thing is what you think about yourself. Are you being authentic? Are you being the person who you would, like, would your parents be proud? Would your son or daughter be proud? Like that's kind of like, would you be happy for them to see what you're putting out there? I think that's like
Yeah.
way more important. But yeah, authenticity. That's really, it's really hard, because I think people put filter. You've got your filters, you've got your programming. So it's like, I think it's actually like a constant journey trying to find your authentic self while you're doing it. Just
Can I, can
put
I,
yourself out there and then try to find yourself.
can I
Yeah,
challenge the word authentic?
yeah, of course.
I have an issue with the word authentic, and I'll tell you why. I'll
Okay.
explain why.
Yeah.
We can all be authentic. Suicide bombers are authentic. Mass murderers are authentic.
Mm.
Narcissists are authentic. So being your authentic self is not always the best thing to be. But if
Okay.
you are living your life with integrity, and there's a moral aspect to integrity that is not in the word authenticity. If we're living our
Yeah.
life with integrity means we're doing good and we have a moral compass in the world, but we're doing
Right.
good.
Yeah.
Because
I like that.
liars are authentic, thieves are authentic. So I personally, and I know it's a Julie thing, I have a bit of a thing with being authentic to self. Because until we know who we are, what are we being authentic to? Until we know what our values are and our values drive us, how do we know what we're being authentic to? We
Mm.
don't, because we don't know who we are. So this self-assessment, self-analysis, self-reflection, which you've spoken about, self-mastery, that's the only place we ever learn who we really are. And most people don't do that. They won't go there. So what are they being authentic to? They're being authentic to a programmed, conditioned individual. I'm not saying it's their fault, but they're being authentic to something that maybe isn't their authenticity because they're programmed and conditioned.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. It really does. And yeah, maybe I'll rephrase rephrase what I was saying.
Just add it
Because
into your thought process.
yeah, I think integrity. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Well,
Definitely.
it's one of those things. I just my background is, well, and I still do it, leadership and management consultancy, and people are saying, "Well, I'm just being myself," and I'm like, "Yeah, and what's the result that's getting you? If you're just being yourself, are you getting the result you really want to get? No. Well, then
Mm.
who is myself? Who am I? And that phrase, "I am," is so important. I listen to people and they say, "I am." And it's like, I am. And then there's a brand. So I am, I don't know, I am old, or I am, fat, or I am a mother, or I am a grandma. And I'm like, yeah, and what does that really mean? So when we use the word I am, it also then brands us, which then also then we take those I am words into our head and we become, so just we started this, I question everything. So who am I?
Yeah.
Who am
Yeah.
I? I've spent decades looking at who I am and designing who I want to be, which is with integrity, with surety, with with confidence, with power. I know who I am. You and most people that know me know who I am as well,
Yeah.
because it's
I'll
just
certainly not forget you.
good. But it's this whole thing. Who we are. I mean, my fists are clenched now, but who we are is what people see. It's our personal brand. It's our personality. It's our charisma, or not, as the case may be. Who are we?
Yeah.
And are people going to find us attractive? This energy thing we were talking about earlier. Now I'm speaking at 20 to the dozen. But this energy thing that we have, our energy infects people. Our energy infects and affects people. So how do we want to infect and affect people within life, within our business, within what we do? How do we want that to be? And mine is certainly not
Yeah.
boring. I mean, I don't want to bore people. So my energy is not, well, I hope not. You can tell me afterwards. Boring.
No, no. Not at all. Not at all.
So we design what we want to be. We design who we want to be. And of course, that upsets some people. Some people love it. Some people don't. But that's
Yeah.
being
I mean,
true self-mastery.
yeah. 100%. And again, it's kind of all coming together in my little learning journey at the minute as well. Really, really, because finding out if you're at the start, you're not the person who you want to be, you can kind of pretend and be that person. So you do all the things if I want to be a successful property entrepreneur,
Yep.
then you've got to do the things that a
Yep.
successful property entrepreneur is going to do. You've got to
Yep.
kind of, in a way, fake it till you make it. And yeah, and you can kind of trick your subconscious
No,
into
you don't
thinking that
trick
you are
it.
those things.
There's no
What
tricking.
do you do?
You
What do you
become.
do then? You
You don't.
feed it. You just become.
Your unconscious takes things literally. So you
Right.
can't fake it. You can't trick it
Hmm.
because it is who you are. I work with
Right.
my unconscious. I was doing it earlier about something. So when you say I am, that's what your unconscious hears. Now, you can't say I am a multi-millionaire when you're not, because it will go, really? So you've got to work with it to train it to believe you. And the more you
Yeah.
do that, the more it will support and help you do whatever it is you want to do. But you work with it and you become, because it is you, but it's the bit of
Yeah.
you that works unnoticed most of the time. It's the bit of you that is your habits that you don't even know you've got. So when you
Yeah.
really dig deep and work with it, you can change habits. You can change who you are with the help of your unconscious, because it's there to support you. It's there to help you. It's also there to keep you safe. So what you have to do is work with it enough so that it trusts you and you trust it. And then when you're working in harmony,
Yeah.
magic happens. I can't express it
You've
any
just
better than that.
made a little connection in my brain there. Something's just clicked into place. When you oh don't say I've just lost it. Um, um, oh man, you just made on a real connection just made in my brain there. About like just again, it's just things that I've been going through recently. Like just just doing different things, not doing the same. Like if you don't want to be where you are now, you've got to change what you're doing. So
Yeah,
that's what I've been doing, changing everything. And it again, the things when they start clicking into place, the synchronicities that start happening.
yeah.
It's but yeah, I wish I could remember. It went as quick as it went in my head. It went straight back
No,
out.
but you've got it. You've got it at a subliminal. You've got it
Yeah,
at an unconscious level. But
yeah,
the thing with that, when we change what we do, and I can't remember the phrase, but it's something like the thinking that got you to where you are is not going to get you to where you want to be.
yeah,
And when we change things, and change is the one constant, and if we don't change, we go backwards, pure and simple. When we change things, we have to change how we think. Because if we carry on thinking in the same way, it's not going to move us forward, it's going to keep us stuck. So
yeah,
this evolution of us as the individual is true self-mastery. Self-mastery doesn't end. Self-mastery is a continuous journey for life. Because when you think about what's happening now in the world, and you think about how, just as an example, AI currently is affecting business, and all of the technological advancements just with AI, just one part that we see, as
yeah,
in videos, replicating you, audios, writing, all the prompts on ChatGPT or whichever, and Gemini and all the others. If we do not keep up with that, if we do not evolve with it, where do we end up? Out of the
hmm,
picture. And that doesn't matter how old you are.
yeah,
It doesn't matter whether you're 20 or whether you're 70. If you don't keep up with that, you've not got a hope in hell, really, of
yeah,
continuing to grow and develop and, be successful, because everything else changes.
yeah.
A few
I
years
couldn't
ago,
agree
who would
more.
have ever have known there would be an alternate financial, opportunity that we can use like crypto? Who ever would have thought that? Because
Yeah,
money grows on trees, doesn't it? But no, actually it doesn't, because even
yeah,
money today is not paper. It's polymer. It
no,
doesn't grow on trees because it's plastic.
yeah, oh,
So,
yeah,
even the old beliefs are not true anymore.
yeah. That's oh yeah.
I
Wow.
could go on for
Well,
hours, by the way,
I
Damien.
wish we could. I wish we could. Honestly, I feel like we should have maybe a follow-up
I know.
episode And yeah, I'll definitely
Happy
you should
to.
get yourself to another event because we'll definitely meet up again and have a coffee or something like that. But like, wow,
Yeah,
yeah, amazing. But I'm running out of time. But yeah, I mean,
I know.
that's I honestly, I've loved this. I've really loved this, and talking to you, getting to know you a little bit. It's yeah, very it's eye opening for me. There's some things that I need to think about maybe a little bit differently as well. So very nice.
Yeah, well, you know where I am. You can always send me a
Yes.
message now and go, Julie, you know when?
Yeah. All right. Okay. I'll hold you to that one because
I'll
I've always
happily
got
laugh.
lots of questions. Right. Okay.
Just
Well, I
send them
suppose we'll
through.
end it there. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you very
And
much.
I'll make sure
You're
that we
more than
definitely
welcome.
keep up because you've been amazing to talk to.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
no problem at all. Please come back on and we'll have another catch up in a few months or something like that.
Definitely.
Uh,
Can talk about a lot more things.
no, I know there's so much we didn't even get to. So yeah, I know there's probably
No.
a well of information there that we'll hopefully get at the end of one day. So yeah, okay, I'll end the recording.
Yeah. Right.